Andy Ruiz versus Anthony Joshua. The rematch takes place in Saudi Arabia on Saturday the 7th of December. Now, I don't think there'll be anybody watching this channel that isn't aware of this fight, if you've been living under a rock or have been in a coma. As I said, it's taking place in Saudi Arabia, and there is so much to talk about with this. It's difficult even to know where to begin. I don't plan my videos, I just turn the microphone on and start speaking, and this video is no different, but if it feels a little bit disconnected and kind of lacks structure, I do apologize. I'm just kind of talking to you as if we were talking face to face, which curiously isn't something I get to do very often. My sister's recently last couple of years taken up a pretty real interest in boxing. She was very casual to begin with, and she hates AJ, by the way. But with the exception of my sister and my dad, I don't really know anyone in real life who I can speak boxing with. So again, I just talk as if I'm talking to you sat at home. We don't have to agree. They're just opinions. I'm not saying that what I'm saying is correct. It's just a discussion piece, I guess. And who is my pick? I honestly don't have a pick. How can I make a prediction video without a pick? If you put a gun to my head, I would say AJ wins the rematch. My heart feels like Andy Ruiz is going to win the rematch. Now, the largest concern for me is AJ's resistance to overall, but specifically to Ruiz's hooks. Now, for anyone that's been watching AJ for long enough, you will know that he is a vulnerable fighter. We're not, at least not yet, but we're not talking Amir Khan or David Price resistance concern. Part of me did wonder if Joshua could become like a Price 2.0, because while Joshua has achieved so much more than Price ever did, Price was at a very similar level prior to AJ's Charles Martin fight. I'm pretty sure if you put Price in with Charles Martin in his 18th or 19th fight, he would have won. Would he have then went on to beat Vladimir Klitschko? I have no idea. We can't really know what Price's career would have looked like because of obviously his back-to-back losses. But if he hadn't went in against... Anyway, that's a different video. Joshua's resistance is my primary concern. His stamina is secondary because I think his stamina issues are always a result of his resistance issues. And I don't think it's fair to say he has a glass jaw, because a glass jaw is something that you don't recover from. I think Amir Khan now, maybe where he is, you would say he has a glass jaw, but when he got knocked down by Breedis Prescott, he got back up. A glass jaw is when you're put to sleep, right? Lennox Lewis, you could argue in the beginning of his career, not even the beginning, he had a glass jaw. He was knocked out completely by Rahman and McCall. He was as good as gone. But he was able to come back. And you could argue that some of the punches that Lewis took against Vitaly Klitschko, they would knock anybody out. And Lewis took them flush without even being so much as wobbled. So if a fighter's chinny, they're not always going to be chinny in every single fight. All right, and like I said, I don't think Joshua has a glass jaw. He was hurt against Povetkin, recovered, took Povetkin out. And I think that's, again, I think that's the most interesting fight for me. Of all of AJ's fights so far, and I've seen most of his amateurs too, the Povetkin fight's very, very curious because he showed shades of an entirely evolved style with his kind of hands at his waist, relaxing, looking as if he was comfortable and happy, looking less robotic. And curiously, him looking robotic has never bothered me. Vladimir Klitschko looked robotic and went on, excuse me, I'm still dying from man flu, one of the longest heavyweight runs of all time, and looked unbeatable, made his opposition look very, very simple and very, very easy to beat. And maybe they were, I'm not saying his opposition was the greatest, but doing it consistently for that long still takes a level of skill. But the AJ that we saw against Ruiz, I live over in Dubai, and I was watching it before I went to work, actually. And even my girlfriend, who doesn't watch boxing, said, "Why does he look so strange? What's wrong with him?" Meaning AJ. And I have no idea where his head was or what was going on, but he looked spaced, he looked elsewhere. I've never seen him in a fight like that before, and I don't think it's pressure related. Because if he was going to be showing those kind of symptoms, it would have been in the Vladimir Klitschko fight, right? I mean, of course, people's mental makeup and mental kind of coherence and their mental fortitude changes as they go through life. Some for better, some for worse. So maybe something happened between the Klitschko and the Ruiz 1 fight. Maybe he wasn't in a great place mentally. I'm not sure. But he looked a lot more than just somebody who wasn't confident. He looked completely spaced out. And for me, that was kind of... that remained constant throughout the fight. Even before the knockdown, he didn't look comfortable. He didn't look like... even after he knocked him down... and let's get it right. His knockdown, the first knockdown of Ruiz was a beautiful, beautiful shot. Beautiful hook. And I think that the even better punch was when Ruiz got back up and they kind of went to each other. Joshua caught him with an incredible straight that I think would have knocked anyone else out in the entire division. Knocked him out cold. But Ruiz took it like it was nothing. And I guess at that point his adrenaline was fired and he was almost like an indomitable human being. And unfortunately for AJ, he completely misinterpreted, completely misread the body language. And I wondered if it was part of the elsewareness, the weirdness of AJ, was the same feeling that was kind of pushing him, hurrying him to get at the fight. Even though he didn't see Ruiz stumble around on kind of bandy legs, maybe he just wanted to get the fight over with. And maybe, I said, his distraction maybe wasn't even the fight. Maybe the fight was just in the way of him having to worry about whatever it was. I don't know. There's a lot of speculation about what happened in the dressing room prior, whether he was knocked out in sparring the week before. There's a lot of rumors, all of which have been vehemently denied by Team AJ. Again, please do apologize for the man-fluism. But he went in there to finish a completely unfinishable Ruiz and got caught with that hook that changed the rest of the dynamic of the fight. I do think it's interesting that both, if this had happened singularly, you could say, okay, fair, it's just once. But twice, both Vladimir and Ruiz have had AJ very badly hurt. Neither went in for the kills. I think AJ's power is absolutely real. I think there's something very, very dangerous in his punches that makes boxers think, you know what, I don't want to go in quickly and rush this. And it wasn't really until the 7th round when Ruiz kind of landed the next kind of cuffing hook on top of the skull that he really went in kind of all hands, all kind of no holds barred sort of stuff. But you do have to wonder, although I question Joshua's punch resistance, I don't question his boxing ability. I think he's a great boxer. I think his punch selection is wonderful. His jabs is beautiful to watch. Yes, he looks robotic, but he's a big guy. I have no issue with him looking robotic. I think we're far too critical of how fluent a boxer can look. One of the most fluent boxers, one of the most perfect examples of complete fluency was when Kovalev fought Nathan Cleverly a long time ago. His punch selection looked like his punches flowed like water, looked so clean and smooth and silky. But that doesn't mean you're impenetrable or you're unbeatable. All right, just because someone's slick doesn't mean that they can't be tagged. Tyson Fury is anything but robotic, and he was still knocked out against Wilder, knocked down twice. He's been knocked down multiple times in his career. So people put a bit too much stock, I think, in not being robotic. You don't have to be loose-limbed all the time. Kind of straight back, high guard. As long as you can still have head movement while looking robotic. And again, AJ was kind of slipping the punch when he caught Ruiz with the first left hook. I think it was left hook. So it's not like you can be robotic. That doesn't mean that you're incapable of moving in any direction or have no lateral movement. But if he hadn't been tagged then by Ruiz, what would the fight have looked like? Let's say he didn't get Ruiz out. He kind of unloads the tank, trying to knock him out. The round comes to an end. Who knows what would have happened after that point? And the curious thing about this fight is that we're going to get to find out maybe what would have happened. We're assuming AJ's going to go in there injury and concussion free. I'm not suggesting he was concussed in the first fight, but he certainly didn't react well after the first punch. He looked concussed at least after the first punch. I've heard rumors that he's been hurt again in sparring. Not sure how truthful that is. I don't know. I think boxers can usually be hurt in sparring at some point. I guess it's to the degree of how badly hurt he was. But I think keys to victory: pump the jab, straight down the pipe, step off. And I've been watching him in his training. He's spinning off that kind of front foot. If he learns to do that, he can be turning Ruiz all night. Ruiz doesn't have very quick feet. And to be a boxer doesn't mean you always have to kind of go back and back. You can go sideways. And if Joshua can train himself to go sideways while pumping a jab and throwing a straight left, in a much heavier, less articulate way of a Lomachenko, stepping off punches. Derevyanchenko did it very well. And again, unheralded it against Triple G. Really nice movement that wasn't really given as much credit, I think, as it was due. There's a great talent and a great skill to be able to do that. But I know it's not a fight, but I've seen Joshua doing it over ropes and under ropes. So he does have the physical attribute of the foot movement. If he's able to do that and bring it to the fight, I think he can keep Ruiz turning. And Ruiz has to have his feet set when he's throwing those kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 combo hooks. Keep him turning, keep him moving. It doesn't mean you need to run away. Make sure your jab is quick, it's fast, and it's right back to the top of the head. And if I was training AJ, I wouldn't be so worried about keeping the guard in front of the face, just keeping it above the ears. I know that kind of means he's open for jabs and for straights, but Ruiz doesn't throw a great straight. And I think his straights are far slower and far more cumbersome than his hooks. So I think if AJ can protect against the hooks, meaning keeping his gloves kind of above his ears, just kind of above his temples and a little bit behind his temples, protecting that kind of part of his skull, I think the rest he can win with distance, pumping out the jab and the straights. Keep Ruiz off the hook, force him to use the longer straights, the longer jabs, keep it long as the fight as a whole, and keep him turning. Now, if I was Ruiz, all you really have to do here is just get close to AJ. And I think Ruiz boxes very well on the inside, particularly when these guys come into clinch. And if you've watched any of Ruiz's fights, I'm assuming his opponents have seen this and trained for it, but none of them seem to react to it as if they expected it. They always seem to be caught completely unaware when this happens. But when Ruiz comes in for a clinch, ref will call break. Or rather, before the ref calls break, Ruiz will kind of be clinched up holding, and it's almost like both boxers have agreed that, okay, we're not throwing punches now, let the ref break us up. And Ruiz will explode into this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 punch combo, and it catches so many boxers unaware. And that would be the perfect time, if I was Ruiz, to catch AJ with his kind of head unprotected. AJ's got to be very, very careful up close, keeping his, if it's I don't know if it's a weakness in his skull or his makeup, I don't know what it is, but he certainly didn't take the kind of high ear shots very well. Even the ones that just skiffed the top of his head, they were buckling his leg. And it could be because of the very first hook, maybe it kind of broke something, metaphorically or physically. And everything after that was just too much. But Ruiz says just get on the inside. Don't be afraid to grapple up. Punch the moment you hear break, start punching. If I was him, I would have been working a little bit more on my straights, not be so reliant on the hooks, because if you can defend against the hooks, Ruiz didn't seem to have that much more to his game. He throws a relatively nice uppercut, but his straights aren't great. They look quite weak, and his straights from distance are even worse. But he does have prodigious power, and again, if you've been doing any kind of research on Ruiz, you would know that Joseph Parker still maintains that Ruiz is the hardest puncher he's ever shared a ring with. And he's sparred and fought Ruiz. And of course, Parker's been in the ring with AJ. And he said that, AJ didn't really catch him flush, but I think Freddie Roach also said something along the lines of, maybe with the exception of Tyson, Ruiz is one of the hardest punchers he's ever worked with before. So I know his KO ratio doesn't necessarily support that, but AJ's reaction to the punches certainly did seem to confirm it. Of course, there is a blueprint to beating Ruiz, or at least going very, very competitive with him, which is the Joseph Parker fight. Now, a lot of people call robbery with the Parker fight, but it was pretty close. I had it a draw, essentially. I didn't think there was a decisive winner. It was in Australia, New Zealand, either way, it wasn't in America for sure. So I had no issue with Parker getting the nod. But that Ruiz didn't look unbeatable. Now, if Joshua can remake that fight and win a points decision, dust it off, go again and move forward, and thankfully you just don't have to fight a guy again that clearly has your number or doesn't match up with you very well. But if Ruiz can get close, work, because AJ didn't seem to like those body shots. If he can work those body shots, the hooks to the body, then come upstairs, chop the tree, head falls later. Maintain that. And again, I think a lot of the pressure that Ruiz applied and should apply again is just that almost kind of zero volume pressure, where he's not pressuring with his hands, he's pressuring with his feet and his presence, forcing AJ to think, oh no, I'm in range, I need to move. Just take those steps forward, make AJ work, make AJ punch and move, make him work for it. And then once you start feeling confident, you feel some of the sting. Excuse me. You feel some of the sting from AJ's punches dropping a little bit. Open up. It's very likely that Ruiz can't win a decision here. I hope that isn't the case. I hope it's perfectly fair scoring. But I think his most likely way of winning is by knockout. So with that in mind, you don't need to kind of rush out from the very second, because you want to make sure you have an opportunity for 12 rounds, not just for the first 3. And Ruiz is a big guy, and Ruiz has never been a volume puncher anyway. This is something I think that's a common misconception with him. He's a front foot counter puncher, not a volume puncher. He likes to punch with you. And for AJ, that's his worst nightmare, because he's punching maybe twice as slow or with half the speed of Ruiz. So Ruiz is almost always going to land first if they punch together. I do think kind of the last point I'll touch, because this video is getting far too long. This was the first time we've ever seen Ruiz hit the canvas in his entire career. And I don't think he was particularly hurt. He got up very quickly and took a huge punch right after it. So I don't think he was in any, he didn't have any kind of loss of function or kind of any kind of bandy legness. He was fine. But I think it was on his mind that AJ was able to put him down. So I'm guessing it's the hardest he's ever been hit as well. So although AJ might be going in with one of the hardest punches he's ever faced, I think Ruiz is too, and I think he's very aware of that fact. That explains the tentativeness. And although he knows AJ can be hurt by his punches, he knows equally that he can be hurt. Maybe not to the same extent, but that risk is still there. And it's that risk that I expect to keep Ruiz fairly honest, and I think he's only going to look to counterpunch. I don't think you're going to see Ruiz leading off too much. He's going to be in no hurry to throw too many punches. It's a very interesting fight. I'm actually flying to Saudi on Friday. I'll be there for the fight. I'm very excited to watch it. And there's a lot of great undercard fights too. It's a fantastic card. I'm especially interested in Povetkin and Michael Hunter. I should have made a video on that. I have no idea who wins that. I guess Michael Hunter probably wins on activity alone. I don't think Povetkin can hang with Hunter for more than 5 or 6 rounds. I'd fancy Povetkin by knockout in the first 1 to 6, and then Michael Hunter kind of winning it going away after round 6. But that's a separate video, which I don't have time to make. I hope you tune in. Regardless of where your allegiance and loyalty sits, just enjoy boxing for what it is. This is maybe one of the richest periods of boxing in the last 30 years. Enjoy it, savor it, and enjoy it while it lasts.